Hey friends, welcome to the HealthSimple Show. I'm your host, Kyle Reidhead, and I interview health and wellness experts from around the world to help you live healthy, happy, and stress-free. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and if you have any questions about anything we talk about through this episode, just comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Enjoy the show. Hello friends and welcome back to HealthSimple Radio. Today I'm joined with Cory Rodriguez, who is a health and fitness coach and is the owner of a company called One Healthy Nation. Cory, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Thank you.
Glad to have you on here. Now, you've been a health and fitness coach for, was it 10 years? Or close? Yeah, so you're
about 10 years.
A veteran in the space. What was it that got you into wanting to be a health and fitness coach?
Well, I was a trainer first. So I was a trainer. It was all in person. This is kind of before the social media stuff. So I basically was in gyms mainly. I was doing diet plans for, my clients in person. And I was basically in gyms, like working with them on like a one-on-one basis. And I basically found that, you can only obviously work with people that are close. So that's when I said, as Instagram started to build up and Facebook and all this like new way of doing things, I kind of merged into doing things more online so I could help people in a different fashion from all over the world and not just people that are from my town. Mm-hmm. But I started out in fitness and training people, and now I do more programs overall since I'm obviously not right next to someone.
Yeah. And your Instagram is absolutely amazing. If there's anyone, listening right now who hasn't seen his Instagram, I think it's Cory L. Rodriguez. Is that it?
That's it. Simple. Yeah.
But he's got over 500,000 followers on there, but a lot of really good information. I actually had a few clients bring your name up just recently over the past week. Really? And I was like, he's actually coming on my podcast this week. So they're pretty excited to listen in. So awesome. Really cool. So yeah, again, listeners, if you haven't, check out his Instagram. You'll learn a ton of information there. Now, when you were in the fitness space, were you doing this kind of stuff yourself too? Were you doing bodybuilding or were you training quite a bit or what's your background in health?
So I was an athlete forever. I played hockey my whole life. And about 15, 16, I got really heavily into working out, kind of like almost when everyone was kind of getting into sports overall in high school, I started to work out. So I got pretty into it then just for myself. And then as I got a little bit older in like 19, 20, I wanted to compete in bodybuilding, which never happened, but I did want to. And I was around that for years at gyms from that point on. So I was very into it myself. So that's kind of how I started. I use myself as kind of like a dummy to figure everything out, what kind of macros to use, what kind of training to use. I pretty much have done every single diet you can imagine almost, every training style. I've done things completely wrong. I've done things with bad form, like before I figured it out. I've done almost everything right and wrong for years. So after that point, after I put in all that time and effort, I realized I really enjoyed it. And then I branched into helping people also and kind of going in that direction. But for myself, even in high school, I was very, very into it. I worked in some the vitamin shops that were local and I was just super, super into it. And it was mainly also from only an aesthetic point of view. I mean, obviously I wanted to be healthy, but it was more about how you looked on the outside and kind of just like how lean could I get, how big could I get, how good can I look overall, So
you were experimenting with the super restrictive bodybuilding diets, yet not actually competing?
Oh, yeah. I dieted down for some of like the photo shoots that you would have to be into just like in that kind of shape. Okay. But I wouldn't compete. I enjoyed it for a small time. Yeah. I just enjoyed like the overall look. I really didn't love after I realized it, the whole stage portion. Yeah. But I loved like the training and the diet. So I did it for myself to learn. And then eventually I never dieted down to that point again, because it's very difficult. I didn't really have to, but
What was the lowest you were able to get your body fat percentage down to?
I never tested it because, again, it was only for like a shoot, but I'm guessing about like 5%. I mean, I was completely diced. Like there was not an ounce of fat on me. I had every vein popping out possible. But at that time, because I didn't know as much, I also was barely eating anything at that point, like to get to that point at the very beginning. I was on I started out with more calories, and then by the time it got to that point, I was eating like basically like protein. So
how do you feel when you're in that? I mean, when you're at 5% body fat and you're eating little calories, how do you feel?
you feel horrible. Like every day is a struggle, honestly, and you get more used to it, and don't get me wrong, you could be lean, 8, 9, 10%. It's very different from that to 5%. I mean, and most people won't, unless they're really trying, get into that kind of shape. And frankly, you just feel like crap. I mean, you just feel like so drained. Every time that you train and you're done, it's like you're just like, you're absolutely drained, So it's not a fun thing, I will say. And truthfully, now I look back and it's to look a certain way, I understand that, but your body talks to you. There's a reason why you don't feel good whatsoever, because you are literally, trying to starve your body of food, and you're basically trying to put your body into that state that your body doesn't want to be in. And that's why it's so difficult.
Yeah. So you were training your clients at that time in kind of the let's say the bodybuilding type programs. Yeah. Now you switched it more to holistic health type program. Can you talk about the difference between the two? Because I think there's still a lot of people that want to lose weight or get healthy, and they still go the bodybuilding type, realm, just because maybe they're just unsure, or that's just the way the trainer has taught them. So kind of talk about the difference.
Yeah, sure. Well, overall, I think a body part split is good for some people. I did it for a long time. I think it's good to kind of experiment, see what you like best. But overall, I don't think your average person needs a body part split. I don't think that you need a whole day for arms. I don't think that unless you are competing again, that you really need that. Most people can do some kind of push-pull in legs or upper body and a lower split. There's many different ways of doing it. But I think as far as like the training goes, I think the body part split is not always needed, especially for your average person who's just trying to get into good shape. The other thing is, the bodybuilding diets, they rely only on macros. So you're not looking at micronutrients. So you're not looking at what else you're feeding your body. You could get into shape eating almost anything if you restrict your calories enough. Doesn't mean that you should either. So at that time, I literally didn't eat a vegetable for like years. I hated it if it was green. I ate pretty much rice and potatoes and chicken and fish. That was my diet. There was not a lot of different foods. So I'm not getting broccoli? Different of like the nutrients. I used to hate broccoli. I hated it. Okay. I wouldn't even eat broccoli. And frankly, I still got into shape because my calories were low enough. My macros were good enough, but it's not a good long-term place to be for your hormones and for your long-term health and overall to feel good day in and day out. So people go to, the bodybuilding way. And I think what we like to do is we like to either go one or the other. You either have someone who kind of eats like all healthy nutrient-based food and a lot of it, and they don't really watch their calories or portions, or you have someone who only watches their calories and portions. Yeah. And I kind of like to mix them together. You could find out how many calories you need around and how much, or what like your macros should be. And you could still fill those macros with nutrient dense food. It doesn't need to be one or the other. So you have one guy who his diet has no nutrients, no vegetables, no plants, and he's just focusing on macros. And the other side of it is they're eating, good solid food, but even some foods very like high in calories. So if you're trying to lose weight, you may not get as far as you'd like without really tuning in. I could eat a handful of nuts 8 times a day, and it definitely, fills you up calorie wise. So you have to try to find an even keel where you're getting quality and quantity and mixing it. So I think that's like the big difference. Now, I think most of my diet, most of it, like 70% is probably plants, as to where I literally didn't eat a plant for 3 years while getting in shape. So,
oh man, that's crazy to go that long.
And it's brutal.
Yeah.
or I had like a piece here and there, but it was basically nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the big thing is sustainability. I think for most people, if you want to lose weight, and I mean, I get why they go the bodybuilding route, because they see people so lean and just, shredded 6-pack abs or 8-pack abs. But the thing is, they're not staying at that. Like, that's not long-term. That's maybe 1 week, if that. And it's hell that week for them to be that shredded.
It's brutal. Yeah.
So it's not a sustainable thing. It doesn't teach you healthy habits and something that you can do long-term. So I think, it's important to look at the other side of things and focus on your health first, and allow that to be the driver of weight loss.
Sure.
Someone that does go
and you know what, also adding in like water too. You see guys who deplete their water, they're very, very dry looking. They don't necessarily walk around like that, but you see pictures like that.
Yeah.
You add 5-10 pounds of water on someone, it looks totally different from them completely dried out. So you have to factor in all these techniques that someone might look like the last few weeks going into a show, that even 8 weeks out from a show they didn't look like, because they weren't going down the rabbit hole quite as much yet. So
yeah, absolutely. Now so why don't you talk a little bit about what some of the issues are if you're eating the sort of bodybuilding type, and that's the way you're trying to lose weight. I mean, obviously we know you don't feel great. You have really low energy because you're eating next to nothing, but what kind of things can this cause, whether it be short term and long term to your body?
Yeah, sure. So overall, I know bodybuilders at every different size. I know guys who are absolutely tremendous, and I know guys who just have a little bit more muscle than your average person. And I'm going to say a super high protein diet. Well, I do think protein's important. I used to eat tons of protein, like 2 grams per body pound. I used to slam down protein like constantly. And I don't think that your average person needs to go or should go that high. Your digestive system will have a hard time with that much protein, especially that much animal protein. So I think protein's important. You want to have it in your diet. I don't think you need crazy high protein diets to lose fat or keep muscle. I think having some in there is okay, of course. I don't think that the bodybuilding idea of having as much protein as you can cram into your digestive system is worth it, because you're only going to use what you can digest. So I've seen very big bodybuilders cram food down the hatch, like literally shaking to put food down. And that's not your average person, obviously. But the idea is, if I eat it, I'm going to digest it. But it's not. It's going into your stomach, but you're not actually utilizing the nutrients of all kinds in that food. So keeping your digestion and your whole system working properly is important. As to in bodybuilding, no one looks at that. And the fiber, there's a lack of fiber in most diets. There's a lack of prebiotics and probiotics because of the food choices overall. So your gut health isn't going to be great overall. And again, the better your gut health, the better your whole body functions, the better your metabolism, the better your brain health, the better your body functions on an everyday basis, as well as digest nutrients, which you do need, once again, to utilize in your muscles. So it's important to keep, these nutrient-dense foods in your diet. And then the lack of plants, again, you can become lean on anything if you really try. So having no plants in your diet means no minerals, no vitamins. You're solely getting, starches from, rice. You might be getting chicken, and that's all that you're getting. Again, the fat, what kind of fat are you consuming? Is it grass-fed steaks and avocados, or is it mainly bacon and margarine and candy and other crazy things that I've seen to people get in, fat. Also, oils is another big thing. I think some oil is okay for sure. I think some people overdo it with like the oil. So I've seen people, pour oil all over their meal at every single meal. Even olive oil, it's healthy, but maybe not at every single meal. You don't need to be, dousing your food in oil. So I just think following the bodybuilding diets is rough also, because you don't get enough, diversity in your diet. You solely focus on different foods. Like when you see someone that's trying to lose weight on a bodybuilding diet, they're not eating all different kinds of fish. They're eating normally like tilapia because it's just protein, or maybe mahi-mahi, but there's no salmon. Okay. There's not an array of different fish. And the same thing goes with all different foods. I feel like it's very restrictive overall. And, again, it's a very simple-minded way of thinking long-term, like you said, because if you lose weight, your body, again, you have to be able to go somewhere from that point. So no matter what progress you make, there's always an aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
And how you control the aftermath is basically how you control the results that you're going to get in the long run, or if they're going to go away. What I find is that a lot of people don't also like to reverse diet, which is part of it. Which, if you think about it, if you're using any type of diet in reality, but especially in bodybuilding and fitness, if you restrict everything so much, tons of cardio, and you stop cardio and you stop, with that amount of food, and now you increase your food intake a ton, well, now what is your body going to do? You've just basically given it way more than it can handle digestive-wise and, calorie-wise, along with stopping cardio. So I think, like you said, the habits that it installs, if you don't really think clearly, if you don't really, be conscious of what you're doing at every step, it gets very out of hand because you just follow something that you can't long-term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the gut issues is probably one of the biggest things that are going to come from eating that type of style of diet, which can take a long time to kind of recover from.
Very long.
And we know the gut is so connected with everything in our body. And so your hormones is going to be affected significantly. And this is a problem that, I hear a lot of people that have done the bodybuilding side of things and they've came out of it. And whether it be a year later, they say, I don't feel right. My mood is awful. I'm tired all the time. What's going on? And a lot of it, I think, has to do with hormones. Have you seen this? And what do you think about kind of the hormonal changes that happen with this kind of diet?
Mm-hmm. So I think it happens in both males and females, but I notice it in females a lot more. I notice it's harder for them to recover than males. I also notice when you reduce carbs a ton in a female's diet or fat, it likely has a possibility of leading to some hormonal imbalance. If you even if you do like the keto diet and you have someone on keto for months and they're female with no carb up days in between, so no carbs in there at all, you're doing full out keto for months. I've seen probably 6 or 7 girls who lost their period because of that. So that's not good. That's obviously a sign that things are not working well, and it took them months to get it back after reintroducing carbs. So then on the other hand, if you take a female and you reduce their fat too much, under 30 and 40 grams a day, I've seen a few women also have severe hormonal imbalances where their mood changes, they're super stressed out, they don't feel right, they have lack of energy. And it takes, like you said, a very long time to come back. It can take 6 months to a year easy to recover from these. And you basically are overstressing your body by not having certain things like fat in your diet enough to regulate your hormones. And it throws your whole endocrine system off. And then from there, you just get more and more issues. When you have one issue in the body, I find it's normally not just that issue. It ends up stemming like a tree to all these different things. And unless you stop it before it gets there, it takes that much longer to come all the way down to being balanced again. And balance is what I always push, is balance. Like if everyone's in a giant circle and you're in the center of that circle, you're not going to any extreme. You're finding the balance for you. Any extreme is going to pull you too much to one side to where you're close to one side and far enough from the other. And that's kind of like the analogy I use to show that you want to stay in the center of the circle. You don't want to be on the brim of one side and way far from the other side.
Yeah, I completely agree. Balance is absolutely everything. One of the other, I've never gotten to the point of 5% body fat or restricted water or anything like that. But the other impact that I would assume happens would be psychological component as well. Obviously the hormonal aspect plays a role in that. But I can only assume someone that gets to that lean and, I guess they think they look that good, then all of a sudden, after they just start eating normal and go back to sort of real life, they're just never able to get back to that stage. Is this something you've seen with your clients or maybe when you did it yourself?
Yeah. For me, it happened I guess a little bit, but I prepared myself for it.
Yeah.
But overall, I could definitely see how it could have happened to anyone because I've seen it all over fitness. It runs rampant in any competitor, anyone around. And I've seen it quite a few times as well It's just body dysmorphia. You don't see what everyone else sees.
Mm-hmm.
So you're so used to seeing, whether you're male or female, a perfect physique in your mind. And then 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, you don't look like that. You can look amazing still, but you don't look like that because it's just not natural to walk around like that. And your mind will play tricks on you. You will think you're fat. You'll think that you don't look as good. You think that you look weak. And it really, for a lot of people, messes them up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard for them to kind of get on that plane of thinking where you don't have to look like a model, or you don't have to look like a sculpture year round, because again, like, even if you stay lean and you look great, getting to that degree, that point, is just very, very difficult. And nor do you want to sit at that, even if you could. No. You know?
So is there quite a bit of mental health issues you find in bodybuilding? I mean, I don't know the industry very well, so I don't want to speak for it, but I can only assume depression, things like that. Is that, do you find that's a problem there?
Yeah, I do, because people are going to the extreme, because they're going to the extreme. They're not focusing on the whole body. They're focusing on how they look, not focusing on their health, not focusing on reducing their stress, on helping their sleep. You know, another thing too, your hormones are messed up. You're not eating enough food. Your sleep, for a lot of people, goes downhill. And that once you don't sleep well, your hormones become more whacked out. Now you become, now your whole body basically is not up to speed because you didn't recover enough. And sometimes these preps go on for months and months. Some people do multiple shows. So, you know, you're not sleeping well now. So everything, again, it's the extreme. You know, you're going to that extreme, and it's going to mess you up psychologically. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be hard. Also, there are days where you just don't want to do it anymore, and you have to battle through that. And for a lot of people, it gets very, very hard for them. And it almost is like, at the end of the day, you have to, and no one can answer this besides you, how worth it is it to you? Yeah. You know, at the time it was worth it for me because I really wanted it, but now it's not. It's as simple as that. How much is it worth it to you? Like, what's it really doing for you that you're going to that length to get there? You know, like, what is it giving you back?
Well, I like that. I think that's a good mindset to have with it, because it's not that, you know, doing a show or getting to that point is the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's a challenge for your body, which is great, right? I think if you can mentally push the limits to get to that point, then you're going to learn something as a person, and you're going to grow from that. I mean, if you stay in that stage or continue to do it, maybe it's not the best idea. But at least you're, you know, if that's what you want to do and you want to try to achieve that and you go after that goal and you achieve it, well, that can be a really good thing psychologically. So I guess it depends on your mindset going into it, as you said. So I think that's important to kind of understand. So it's not that bodybuilding is a bad thing. It's, are you doing it for the right reasons? And do you have the right sort of mindset to handle what you're about to put yourself through? It's like running a marathon. Have you trained for it? Are you prepared for that? Because it's going to do a lot of damage to your body. Now, I don't know if you've been involved at all, but natural versus unnatural. Have you been involved with the unnatural clients, and what kind of differences are you seeing with this after the fact?
So I've worked with both. I've seen both. It's pretty common. Basically, when you're not natural, you have an edge. Your body recovers faster. You're going to be stronger. It's going to give you the edge look-wise. It's going to be easier, not easy by any means, but easier to get through your prep if you're using things like, just anything to enhance, whether it be fat-burning enhancers or something to make you look a certain way, make you stronger. It's going to give you the edge in some way. And then that comes to a whole another thing, how worth it is it to use this stuff on your body? You can do it in a healthy way. I will say you can definitely do it in a very healthy way by getting yourself checked out and monitored. But make no mistake, it's still not healthy. I mean, you're still injecting performance-enhancing drugs into your body or by pill. And a lot of these things are taken by some competitors like Skittles. And people don't do their research. Their coaches don't know. They don't do their research. People don't think about the aftermath, especially in females, what's going to happen to your hormones when they can't come back, when you have side effects that last. And then the mind, like the whole psychological part of it too. Some of these are very harsh, and they might make you moody, and they might, they might give you issues, not so much when you're on, but when you come off of these. So that's something else to also consider. And, again, only you can tell yourself, is it worth it? But then once you go to that level, you really have to ask yourself, what is it giving me back? Because at that point, you're playing with something that in no way that you shape it is healthy for you. It's simply going to aid your physical appearance and your athletic performance.
Yeah.
Okay. And these things do go away. When you stop using them, they do go away. You can, all the effects of them, unless you're staying up to par and everything on all your other accounts, your training, your eating, can go right down the toilet. So you really have to ask yourself again, like, is it worth it to go down this road, basically? But as far as like the aftermath, I notice a lot of people just don't do their research, and if you're going to do this, you need to know what you're putting in your body, which goes with everything, honestly, whether it be food, anything, just something else that you have to do your research on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the light forms, I think it's called Anavar is one that's really, really popular. I know quite a few people that have taken it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be the lighter form of a performance enhancing drug and not have the bad effects of shooting up. But I mean, from the research that I've looked into it, even if you're doing a short cycle on it, it still takes, I think it was close to a year, or was a year, for your testosterone levels to just go back to normal. So, I mean, you're doing a short cycle of, let's say, a month, 2 months, and that's going to affect you for the next year at least. Is that really worth it?
Yeah. And frankly, I think that people, they try to kid themselves thinking that it's completely safe.
Yeah.
Like, make no mistake. Is it one of the safer ones? Yes. Do people pop it like Skittles, like it's no big deal? Yeah. And
Absolutely.
Make no mistake, it is not healthy. Like, there's nothing healthy about taking Anavar. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But don't convince yourself thinking that it's going to be good. Your lipid panel, okay, and your cholesterol will be affected, okay, by taking Anavar. I've seen it probably 10 times, okay? You don't realize that until you've taken a blood test 6 months later, okay? But your blood panel will be affected by taking Anavar for most people. And then you said, once you turn off testosterone production in place of an anabolic like Anavar, anything that you're taking in place of that, when you have to turn off your natural test production, there's an aftermath that has to then turn back on. So again, there's not really a way to think about it like there's no bad side effects of it. There's less and more, but there's still not zero.
Yeah, for sure. So someone who has already done the bodybuilding route, they've gone through it and now they're suffering with some of the issues that have come along with it. What are some of the first steps that someone should take to try to improve their health? If you had a client that came to you and said, I just finished a show, I feel like crap, where are you going to take them? What are you going to do? Let's sort of talk on that realm and see if we can help some others get through what they're going through.
Yeah, for sure. So I probably would first get a blood panel. I'd see where you are. I'd see what your doctor says, what's popping out of the red flags, how's like your liver health, how's your whole blood panel overall, like what's sticking out as being not great. I'd really start taking sleep into account, because chances are you might have not been sleeping that well, especially if you're doing so much cardio, in the morning, twice a day. I've seen it all. So how much were you pushing yourself in the gym that maybe you should potentially lay back a little bit, not go as much, not so much cardio, not zero, but not so much, manage your sleep, start adding in some of the foods that you weren't eating, and honestly getting back to step by step, because you can't add in a ton of food right at the time that you're done competing, but reversing out of that, adding in carbs and food little by little until you get to a maintenance approach that is doable on an everyday basis. So getting your food up to where your body can kind of balance itself out again is another big thing. And then also, as far as even like natural supplements go and herbs, starting to take things for your APA access, anything from holy basil to ashwagandha, anything to balance out your cortisol levels and kind of take your hormones back into sync. And frankly, there's a lot of great products and herbs out there that really do work well for both male and female. So I would start to look at adaptogens as well. That's something that you could even do beforehand, but especially if you're done, it's going to help you to kind of come back into sync with your whole body.
Mm-hmm. So is adrenal fatigue a big concern that happens with those after bodybuilding?
Yeah, I don't really like to use the word adrenal fatigue because it's been thrown around like so much, but it's not really like the adrenals itself that are being tired out. It's your whole endocrine system, your APA axis, where your adrenals lie in. It's basically like a well-working system. It's like a stool. You know, all four legs need to be standing up for that stool to be working. Once you chop one leg off a little bit on that stool, it falls back that direction. It needs all four stools to sit, which is just how your HPA axis is. You need all of your hormones to be working in sync. So I don't want to say adrenal fatigue as a title, but what people refer to as adrenal fatigue, completely. You are stressed, anxiety, you're getting no sleep. You are in the sympathetic nervous system state. So your body, your nervous system is not turning off, you know, and you want to shift that to parasympathetic, where you are chilled out, you're relaxed, you're breathing, you're happy, you know, you're not fight or flight, stressed out. So adrenal fatigue, those symptoms are 100% real for a lot of people. So
now you mentioned a blood panel. Do you have is there other tests that people should be getting? Should be looking at saliva tests or urine tests, things like that. I don't know if this is an area of your expertise, but any specific tests that you think someone should go and ask their doctor for?
Yeah, there's a Dutch test. It's actually an at-home test. The Dutch test I've used a few times. That is one of the more comprehensive hormonal panels that you can take, because it gives you all different types of testing, basically, like your cortisol, your morning, nighttime, not just one amount. So the Dutch test is a great place to look, because it'll give you all the in-between factors that other testing might not give you, and you don't have to kind of guess. Because if you don't have all the answers, then you have to try to guess and figure it out from then. So the Dutch test is a good one. Some of the saliva tests are pretty good too. But the Dutch test is what I've worked with the most. But there are a few adrenal tests out there that are saliva-based testing that do work well. So.
Okay, awesome. So getting back to the diet side of things, if you're someone who's not eating a whole lot of plants at all, you kind of talked about how you have to slowly reintroduce foods back in. Is that same with plants, or can you just start going hard on the vegetables to try and fix your gut issues? Or is this something you got to slowly introduce as well?
I would say if you eat no vegetables, you want to do it slowly, for the reason that, as great as vegetables are, if you have too much prebiotic fiber, it can cause bloating. It can cause some indigestion, especially if your stomach is so shrunken down from eating no food. You may have trouble dealing with that much prebiotic foods. So I'd say little by little, you want to introduce them. Okay. You don't really want to ever dive straight into anything. You always want to take a step-by-step approach with anything, because things don't always work the same for every person. So I would say doing things little by little, adding, 1 serving of veggies, 2 serving of veggies, and, having a decent array of greens, and then prebiotic foods like onions, for example. And then also probiotic foods, again, like sauerkraut. I'm very, very big on organic sauerkraut. Nice. I put it in my food. I take it out of the jar like a caveman, or whatever. I eat that twice a day now. I didn't start there either. I started with maybe one serving a day maybe, but I do basically two forkfuls in the morning and 2 at night, and that covers my probiotic foods besides a pill-based probiotic. But I would definitely, with any probiotics, you want to ease into things. You don't want to dive right in, or you're going to have tons of gas probably too. So. Yeah.
Sauerkraut is absolutely amazing. I put it on my eggs pretty much every morning.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely love it.
Right.
I think the other thing too is, if you've been eating, from what I see anyway, with most bodybuilders, is they eat chicken all day, every day. It's just nonstop chicken. Maybe switch up your meat and go to something else too. That may help.
Yes, definitely get a different array of animal products or something, or protein, because too much of any food is going to get just right on boring, for one. No matter how many different ways you cook it, eating the same thing every single meal is quite tedious. So definitely changing things up, getting a different array of all different things is going to be the best way.
Yeah. You mentioned on protein, not eating too much. Do you have a recommendation of the amount of protein that someone should consume?
Yeah, I kind of sit at like 0.6 to 0.7-ish, grams per body pound, as to where, again, I was at 2. I was at even 1 for a while, where it can be great for your physique, but I don't really think you need that much protein. I think that you can do better off with less protein to digest, and kind of sitting at 0.6 to 0.7, as opposed to, I know a lot of fitness guys, coaches are at like 1 gram, and that's fine. I just find it's better for digestion when you kind of come down like a bit.
Okay, nice. Okay, so before, I have a question that I ask all the guests that come on the show, so I'm going to ask that afterwards. But first, is there anything that we missed that you think someone should know on this topic, whether it's someone who's looking to get into bodybuilding, or maybe they've completed it and they want to get on the right track for getting healthy again?
Yeah, I think the big thing, and I saw this when I was transitioning from fitness on, my level, my clients, and my ex at the time as well, who also was into fitness, I noticed that we have to kind of pave like the way in between. Like, whether you're looking to lose weight, get healthier, you should look at the body as a whole. So you should look to be as healthy on the inside as you look on the outside. Mm-hmm. So your look on the outside does not determine how healthy you are. You can have abs, you can be shredded, you can be strong as an ox and still not be healthy, still have crazy stress levels, still falling apart inside, still have chronic illnesses. So I think looking at the body as a whole and trying to treat the inside, which you can't see, as just as important as the outside. I think that's a big thing that people kind of miss. The body is a whole, and you want to make it work like a whole. So that means all accounts, stress management, stretching. If you're training 5 days a week, stretch, do yoga, or you will end up like a pretzel. And your posture is terrible, which leads to more issues. So again, it's that center circle, train hard, of course, but stretch, do yoga, try and meditate, do all these different things that are going to encompass your taking care of your body as a whole, no matter what your goals are on, for like your look on the outside.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree, because the thing is too, what people need to understand is that if you feel good, then your body is going to listen to you a lot better than if you don't feel good. So if you want to lose weight, you want to build muscle, you want to do whatever it is, if you feel good, you're going to be able to achieve that so much more efficiently, so much more easier than
Easier, I guess. Yeah.
than if you don't feel good. So instead of focusing on trying to get those abs, focus on trying to be healthy, focus on trying to feel good. And that's going to allow you to get there so much easier than the opposite. So I love that advice. First, if people want to find you, if people want to work with you, where do they go? Let us know your links, or where we can find you on the internet.
So my website's being worked on now, so that's not up. So my email is Cory@CoryRodriguez.net. I answer all my emails, so that would be the easiest way. And then Instagram as well. I try and answer most of my DMs too. So you could DM me through there, but my email again would be the easiest way.
I think you're the first person to throw out your email.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, website, whatever.
Yeah.
Email. That's a little old school.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's just like the easiest way. Like the DMs, like you can get lost and they get piled up like sometimes. So
true.
I try and answer them. I go on, but the easiest way is email, because it's right on my phone. I see it. I answer everyone. So it's just,
Okay. All right. So final question here. For you, you've been on a health journey since, I think you said you were about 15 or so is when you got started. Knowing everything that you know now, if you were to forget everything, go back to the very beginning of that journey and forget everything that you knew, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd want to tell yourself, or the one piece of advice that you'd want to share with yourself, so that, when you get started on your own health journey?
I would say think long-term. Do not think in the short term. And that goes for anything in fitness, really. But, don't think that when you hit this bench press, or you look this way, or you hit this goal, that this is going to make you happy for the rest of your life. Those long-term goals are what's going to keep on changing, and you're going to keep on growing into. I think that goes overall for life, but especially in health. Like, don't think short term. Try and think how is this going to help me in years? How can I get better and build from this? But don't think, short term. Don't do things for the next week or so, or to hit a goal next week that's going to be the opposite of what you might want like later on. So this is not a race by any means. I learn more every single day. There are things that I learn about from people that blow my mind that I can't believe I didn't know already. So again, you may think that you know it all at certain times. There's a plethora of information out there, and you have to know that, your mindset and your goals and you as a person will change. So again, I was super into my physique 10 years ago, and now I'm more into how I feel like day to day. And I thought that was never going to change, and it completely changed. So again, give yourself time to grow and grow into goals long term.
Oh, I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Cory. Thank you for joining me here on HealthSimple Radio. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. And I love that last answer, by the way. Yeah, thank you so much. And, keep putting out great content on Instagram. I absolutely love it. Learn a lot from it. And I know a lot of others do. So we really appreciate what you're doing.